Alright guys, well here it is. If you've been paying attention on Instagram, you may have noticed that a few weeks ago I bought a 2006 Toyota 4Runner V8. This is going to be the replacement for the Lexus GX 460. I know, sad days, you can all unsubscribe now, but this kind of fell into my lap and I really couldn't resist it. So this is a friend of a friend who is selling this. It's super clean. It has 240,000 miles on it. It was $4,000. Can't beat it. I put another 2,000 or so into it, bringing it up to date on maintenance and fluid changes, transmission fluid, engine oil, transfer case, all that good stuff. It's got an ARB steel bumper that needs a little bit of work, but underneath it's pretty rust-free. Of course, the first thing I had done to it was I took it directly to Crown Rust Control on my way home from Harbor Springs and got it coated. But yeah, it's actually a little bit more spacious in the back than my GX 460. There's no third row in this 4Runner, so I don't really have to worry about higher load height. And honestly, all I really use this thing for is putting my mountain bike in it a few times a week and towing and getting Charlie from Daily Motor unstuck when he falls into a mud pit in a press car or something. So really, I don't need a $20,000 GX to do those very simple things. And with 2 press cars a week, we're staying pretty busy just driving those and keeping up on reviews for you guys. So really, this is kind of an effort to save some money and just get into something new and something different for this year and maybe a few more years. Who knows? I might hold on to this for a little while. It's a pretty solid truck, and it'd be fun to have something with close to 300,000 miles on it that still looks like this. It's been in the shop for the last couple weeks. It was a pretty pesky check engine light that we just couldn't figure out, and it was a cam position sensor, but there was some wiring that was frayed in the engine bay, and it was pretty deep in there. So they finally figured that out. Shout out to Autolab in Plymouth. They did a really good job getting this thing straightened out. The dashboard was a complete Christmas tree of lights. When Toyota throws a check engine light, all the traction control turns off too, which is kind of fun, but doesn't really make a lot of sense. So yeah, this is it. 2006, 240,000 miles, 4.7 liter V8, 5-speed automatic transmission, 2-speed transfer case, full-time 4-wheel drive, locking center differential. It has downhill ascent control. It's actually 800 pounds lighter than the GX 460, which is, I think, going to be advantageous. It actually feels a little bit quicker. Haven't drag raced them or anything against each other, but it's nice for off-roading. Fuel economy is about the same. I think I'm just going to throw 87 octane in this thing instead of 93 like I've been putting in the GX. And it has an ARB bull bar, which will gladly accept a winch someday. I don't think I'll do a ton of off-road mods to this thing. It's already in pretty good form, honestly, as it is stock. Big thing right now is just kind of getting maintenance updated. This is why I don't buy a lot of cars, is because when I buy a car, I want it to be mechanically just about perfect. I want the suspension to be sorted. I don't want there to be any creaks and rattles. I want the brakes to work well. I want it to be smooth. And sometimes getting a car to that level is just, it takes a lot of work. So I know it did with the GX, and it did a little bit with this, and if I have to do that on a regular basis, that's no fun. So I like enjoying and driving my cars instead of working on them. I'm going to be doing a video on the GX 460 and kind of summing up my ownership experience with that car. I'll just say I'm going to miss it. That's been one of my favorite vehicles I've ever owned. But I was actually, when I bought that, I was actually shopping for one of these. So it's definitely going to be a downgrade in terms of comfort and luxury. And I don't have my heated steering wheel. I don't have my Mark Levinson sound system in this 4Runner. It does have an aux port, so that's good enough. Yeah, I am going to miss the GX, and if you do need a nice daily driver, I would still recommend a GX 460 over a 4Runner like this. It's just going to be more reliable. There's going to be fewer issues. This is still, even though it's one of the most reliable cars ever made, it's still an older car, and it's going to have some issues, and there are going to be some annoyances. These 4Runners are quite well known for cracking their headers, and that's a really invasive, expensive repair. A few other things here and there, but for the most part, they're pretty stout. And luckily, this one has been very well maintained. It's been garaged most of its life, and as you can see on the interior, I mean, I did have to get this thing detailed. It was full of dog hair, and it had definitely been used. But if you take care of a car, it'll hold up. And this thing has mostly seen highway miles in the truest sense. The previous owners, I think, bought this around 120,000 miles, and in 6 years, they put another 120,000 miles on it, which is quite a lot. So just goes to show high mileage can be a pretty good option for a used buy, especially if it's a Toyota or a Lexus product. We're still getting a little bit warmed up here, but let's listen to this V8 sing. It's kind of quiet, kind of muted. The transmission is still shifting a little bit rough in high RPMs. Gonna have a couple more drain and fills done to this thing. But the brakes are fresh. The suspension on this is actually very fresh, just replaced last year. So I kind of feel bad about doing a lift on this or something like that, just because it rides so well. So I think I'm gonna hold off and start with at least some underbody armor or cladding, and at least protect this thing from rocks if we do take it off-roading. Not if, when we take it off-roading. It's actually pretty quick. So I have some plans for this 4Runner. Nothing really in the immediate future. I'm going to just kind of keep this a low-budget vehicle. I don't really want to put a lot of money into it. My wife and I just bought a Mazda CX-30, which I still haven't filmed. We'll do a video on that soon. And that's been fantastic. So that's kind of going to take the GX's place in terms of a road trip vehicle, a newer, modern, more reliable vehicle, and just kind of our go-to travel car. So far, I'm really happy with this 4Runner. It drives awesome. Definitely following in Throttle House's steps by getting one of these as a camera film car, even though we don't really do high production videos. If I wanted to, I could always roll down the rear window, which is very nice. It actually works. I can't remember where the switch is. Here it is. Yeah, it works great. That was the first thing I checked when I got into this. It'll be fun to take this out to the sand dunes in the spring, and also we'll be using it for quite a bit of towing. Hopefully we can get some more side-by-sides for 2021 and do some more testing with this. This has a 7,000 pound towing capacity, which is 500 pounds more than the GX. And so that'll be nice. I believe the rear-wheel drive V8 4Runners had a 7,300 pound towing capacity. So it's kind of strange that the four-wheel drive has a little bit less than the rear-wheel drive, but something along those lines. Another thing I like about this 4Runner is that it's a bit of a reset for me personally, driving a vehicle from this era. We drive so many brand new cars, and you get into something from this era and it just feels a little bit more old school and a little bit more pure. We have hydraulic steering. We have a 5-speed automatic instead of a 10 or an 8. No Apple CarPlay, no reverse camera. There's a radio. You've got these confusing climate control knobs, and you got your speedo and your tack, and that's about it, you know? I like that. There isn't even a sunroof in this SR5. And it's kind of like driving my Volvo, where I get into that car, it's a reset, it kind of says, oh, you know what? This is what things used to be like, and this is kind of a nice golden era, I think, for Toyota and for vehicles produced in the mid-2000s. The late 90s, the mid-2000s, I think that was kind of the peak of vehicles before they got complicated by tech and distractions. And it's nice getting into this and just not having to worry about a screen turning on or anything like that. And yeah, I have to fumble around with the radio stations here and there, but you know what? I don't listen to the radio anymore, and getting into this, I do. So that's kind of fun. I could throw, you know, an Apple CarPlay unit in here or something, but I don't really think I want to complicate it too much. I want to leave this thing mostly stock. So we'll be having some fun with this year. I don't think we'll be doing anything too crazy in it, but if there's any videos that you guys would like to see, let me know. I'm always open to suggestions. Oh yes, so smooth, so refined. Yes. It doesn't handle nearly as well as the GX460 does, with its adjustable dampers and KDSS. But that's okay. It keeps you from doing crazy speeds around corners that you really shouldn't be doing in an SUV. I love the ride quality in this 4Runner. The front end is probably a little bit overweighted with the ARB bumper, but I think if I do a lift on this, I'll get a slightly stiffer front spring set up to compensate for that. And we'll see. Maybe looking at Dobinson's, maybe looking at Ironman. See what's out there and assess that maybe after its first off-road adventure. We'll see. In Michigan, we don't really need a lot of ground clearance, so that's kind of the other thing, is that you get all these off-road parts. Do you ever really use or need them? I mean, my GX served me perfectly well in stock form for 3 years, 4 years almost, and I assume that this would too. I'll probably throw some recovery points on the front end of this 4Runner, and that's all we'll need. Maybe a little bit of underbody protection. Start with that and go from there. Got to get some all-terrain tires, but these are still only a couple years old and they're still pretty fresh. Also, there's something I like philosophically about having cars that cost under $10,000. You know, it's just one of those things when you have a vehicle that isn't expensive or brand new and it's got some little scratches and dings here and there. You open yourself up to just being more relaxed about the whole ownership experience. Alright guys, well there's the 4Runner and the reasons for picking it up. Really, it's a pretty solid car. I've never really gotten this good of a deal on a used vehicle. I think everything that I've bought I've pretty much paid market value for, or maybe a little bit more. And this is actually a vehicle that I could stand to own for very little money over the course of a few years. And that's kind of exciting for me. So I already socked in, like I said, about $2,000 into getting this up to date. We did a lot of things to it, but for the most part, it's in pretty good shape now. Again, thanks for watching. Let me know if you guys have any questions, and if there's anything you want to see on the new 06 V8 4Runner. I'm excited to take you guys on this journey, and probably won't be making a ton of videos on this, but we'll get some out there, and there's already quite a bit of good 4Runner content on YouTube, and glad to just keep adding to that. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Take care.